Once upon a time, the infamous rover Renard plundered the floating isles. Then his mother called him to her deathbed.
Swear to me that you won't die on the gallows.
She rasped. Reluctantly, he swore. And he whiled away his days at home with music, cards, and wine. But the Emperor had changed. He'd been good once, a shy, almost humble toad. He'd built universities. Then people started whispering about mass graves in the woods, midnight rituals, victims screaming. The Imperial Ravens would round up entire villages, and no one ever returned. The Ravens had come to Ubar scouting for ancient books said to be of great power. But the librarians had hidden the books, so they'd burnt the librarians. The citizens, outraged, had driven them off. The Ravens had come back with dropships. The kid had fled with one of those books. He was brave and dumb and wanted to join the rebellion. And Bernardo had promised his mother he'd protect him. The kid was looking down, watching his city burn. Sorry, kid, Bernardo told the kid. Look, if we give them the book, they'll leave you alone. My mother died for this book! I promised her I'd protect you. Oh, damn it. The kid had run off. With the book, of course. So Bernardo had to run after him. The two ravens were staring at the kid like he was their dinner, which probably was what was in their tiny brains. Hey, Bernardo said. They cocked their heads at him. Pick on someone as ugly as you. Wait, that didn't come out right. For the Emperor! The ravens cawed and rushed at him. A dropship flew overhead. He hoped they hadn't noticed him. The kid. Oh, right. The Gate of Heroes. Someone's idea of a joke, making the Skyship docks a gated community. You needed a hero's sword to open it. And the kid was on the other side of the gate. Who let you through? Promise me you'll take the book to the rebels, or I'm gonna steal your ship. I'm not taking that damn book anywhere, and neither are you. Try and stop me, laughed the kid. I bet you don't even have a hero sword. And with that, the kid hopped away. Had to hand it to the kid. He was an idiot, but he had guts. Where was Bernardo going to get a hero sword? Ore and wind essence? That sounds about right. Perfect. A hero sword. QED. This is what he got for settling down and finding people to care about. The kid's mum had been a swell cook, and she'd laughed at Renado's jokes, even when he didn't know he'd made one. And then the ravens had come to burn her. And she'd made him promise to protect the kid. But she never told him where the book was. Just the kid. He came up to a ledge. It was too far to jump. There'd been a bridge here before, hadn't there? And there was Peter, giggling at him. "How'd you get across?" he asked the kid. "Where'd you find a hook?" "I hopped," said the kid. White-ass kid. "Hey, look out behind you!" "Q," said Renato. Ah, ravens. It was time to talk some sense into the kid. Just hook his way across the ledge and chase the kid down. Thing was, he hadn't used his hook since he'd retired. How had he done it? Maybe if he meditated at that altar there, he'd remember his old skills. Starting to come back to him. Something you never completely forgot, like how to freeze time when attacking. The more he fought, the more he'd probably remember. And there was the Farfarer. She was the fastest ship he'd ever known. She could do the Kestra run in 12 furlongs. Oh, so the salesman had told him. And something told him the kid was about to walk into an ambush. "Stop!" he shouted. "I'm not giving you the book!" shouted the kid, and took off. "No! Peter!" But the kid ran for it, and a goggler nailed him with its eyebeam. The book was unburned. Next to it were the buckles from the kid's shoes, and a kid-sized pile of ashes. Damn it, why hadn't he lied and told the kid he'd take the book to the rebels? The kid would be alive now. Really pissed off and betrayed, but alive. Oh, damn it. Renato picked up the book. He couldn't let the Empire have it now. He was going to have to get it out of there. He'd be a wanted man. Probably have to join the rebellion just to have a place to dock. Well, he'd hated home life anyway. What was the big deal about this book anyway? Maybe he should open it and find out. All that had been years ago. How many? The war was a blur, and now 3 Raven scout ships were chasing him. "Where are you running, rebel?" cawed the Raven captain over the loud hailer. Renato could see them cranking up their catapults. "Just going out for milk?" Renato yelled back. "Where can you run?" laughed the Raven horribly. Far behind him, another city was burning. The dark cloud above its island was thousands of Imperial ships. The fleet was doing a thorough job. "Take us to the rebel base, and we'll spare your life!" it called. The entire jury-rigged rebel fleet was only a few islands to the east. Beyond that were only the pillars of heaven, a sea of endless blood-colored tornadoes. The rebellion was out of time, unless Renato could bring a game-changer. Maybe he could. Renato had found out where he could find the pieces of the Sky Ripper, the legendary weapon that had exiled the lost gods. Surely a legendary weapon could win the final battle. On the other hand, his old friend Lapino had sent Renato a desperate message saying he had a brilliant scheme to save the rebellion. If Renato could only rescue him. Renato dived the Farfarer towards the abyss. As he felt the heat of the jet stream, the Raven ships peeled off, not stable enough to follow him down there. Now it was time to choose. Lapino or the Sky Ripper? Lapino. Apparently, the Mad Rabbit had sold a Pegasus that he did not exactly own. Lapino always wiggled out of trouble, given time. But he was out of time. The Ravens had figured out that Lapino was a rebel spy. If the fleet reached him first, they'd string him up for that. Never mind the winged horse. Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen the winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had... These platforms were great. Renato wanted one for his house. The Ravens had taken the town. Renato had seen villages emptied like this. All the people taken away to be sacrificed in the Emperor's secret rituals. Renato hoped the people were just hiding. Renato's blood was up. He just needed to smash something.
Hey, Excalibur. How are you?
Hey, Excalibur. Nice to come back.
Can't we just agree to disagree? Said Renato. No? Ravens were landing everywhere. The advance guard. He'd better get moving.
Hey, Shadow.
If they got to Lapino first,
Glad you could
they'd
make
eat
it.
him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate
Hope
their
everything
prisoners.
go good at the
Even
doctor,
top
yo.
spies like Lupino. Where had the mad rabbit got to?
Thanks, Shadow, for the like. We appreciate it. And we return the favor, man. Thanks for coming by, Shadow.
Renato wondered who was leaving chests of sword-crafting supplies around. He wanted to thank him. It was starting to come back to him. Something you never completely forgot, like how to freeze time when attacking. The more he fought, the more he'd probably remember. Renato felt ready to take on new powers. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lupino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lupino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The ravens are coming. Oh, the prison thing. Right, yeah, we see this guard owed me 53 ducats, so we made a deal. They're very reasonable people, actually, for weasels. Now, I got a brilliant plan to kidnap Zenobia. We capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows, and that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who also happened to be a deadly sorcerer and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power.
I don't remember. Cause it'll end weird too, and then you'll have to do them again. Like, that's why I was like, ugh.
Zenobia wasn't just the Emperor's daughter, of course. She'd been Renato's best
But
friend
again,
in sword
I
school.
appreciate all y'all
And
coming
you're
here
still
watching
mad for
Ashley
her.
scream.
The rabbit reminded him. They'd been close. She'd told him things no one else knew. But she'd never told him who she really was. She knows all the Emperor's plans, chuckled the master spy. She won't give them up easily. She'll tell the interrogators, all right, said Lapino. Taking her would change the... The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty. Ice cube?
Yeah, that's confusing too. You gotta make other swords. That's why sometimes it's kind of good to replay it too, because when you get all the swords, you can go back to
There were a lot of
the parts you
shiny,
couldn't get through.
smooth, curved with
You need like
leather,
a water sword or something.
buckles and...
And his shadow
smelled,
sword, too.
Yeah.
You know what?
But they should
Never
tell you
mind.
how to make them.
Yes,
not
there was
to make
also
swords.
ore and
Upgrade.
other useful stuff. Let's focus on that, shall we?
Yeah, that's why you gotta get out of the ores and stuff. They come out the treasure chest.
Say goodnight, Gracie, said Renato, wondering who Gracie was.
So, what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lapino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfair a little bit on fire, Lapino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato.
What did you choose on this one?
Hey, you gotta choose your own. Cause whatever I did didn't work. So choose your own.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sure you know better, said Lapino. If
See, this
I
is
craft a
Shadow
sword
Man.
now, it's going to be really
But it's
short.
almost like a I don't think you saw the butterfly bit, but it's like
Firestorm, Winterstorm, Volblade.
you can almost get the wind. Like you need to get.
Oh, I need the essence,
Yeah,
which I don't have.
now the wind, you almost got all the essence to the wind. I mean, the wind only needed one.
He wasn't that good. Yet.
And again.
Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. Where were her guards? Finally, he reached her bedroom. She was curled up at her bed. Oh, he'd forgotten how beautiful she was. How sleek. How soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She became smoke. And he noticed he had a blade to his throat. Stay a while, purred a familiar voice. Did you really think you could capture me? Zenobia said as her ship lifted off. Now I just wanted some privacy. Renato said, did you ever wonder why the Emperor adopted you? And he told her why. His Imperial Majesty wanted to bring the lost gods back. They could make him immortal. But to seal the bargain, he needed a sacrifice. Someone who truly loved him. You're lying. She was furious. You can't prove that. I can. And so, they set sail for the Nexus. The scientists at the observatory have resurrected one of his victims. Well, he's not exactly alive, but it can talk, and it can't lie. You took a big risk. You know, I could just cast a spell to make you tell me where the rebel base is. And you wouldn't consider that cheating? She frowned. Ugh, fine. Let's go get your witness. The rebellion had started after atrocities that the Empire hushed up. Renato had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred for one book. He had slept in a burnt village. Dead kittens and puppies had come to tell him what the Emperor had done to them. Do it, said Renato to himself. It was definitely easier to fight inanimate objects. She caught up with him. She seemed troubled. All right, out with it, he said. He sent his ravens to search for an ancient crystal. Something called the Iblis Stone. Iblis? Isn't he one of the lost gods? He shivered. A stone dedicated to one of the lost gods. Well, that could give great power. But what would the god demand in return? The scientists on this island had been investigating the Emperor's dark ritual on their own. They were neutral in the civil war engulfing the Empire, but they could see that the dark magics the old Toad had loosed were changing the world. Renato hoped he and Zenobia weren't putting them in danger.
This was much easier than free climbing.
Who needed bridges anyway? Renato hated warlocks. The way they stayed back and lobbed flaming death from a distance. Cowards. Really dangerous, effective cowards.
Wait, when it's like 4, 5 of us. I had them when they in group, and they be different colors and stuff. I forgot what the different colors mean.
Well, the yellow one was a fire one, so...
Yeah, it's gonna be yellow, it's gonna be blue, red.
I wonder what I could make with all these sword crafting materials, thought Renato.
The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The ravens had taken care to burn the reanimated witness to cinders. Zenobia stared around, shocked. The scientists had been neutral. They had no part in the rebellion. "Take me to your council," she said, shaken. "I have things to tell them." It was what Renato had gambled on. The Zenobia would turn against her father once she knew his madness. But the rebel base was secret. Could he really risk taking the Emperor's daughter there?
Renato reached Lapino by far-speaker Toad, the one creature the Ravens had left alive at the observatory. "I'll meet up with you at the base," Lapino said through the Toad. "Good thinking." Renato gave him the coordinates. "There's a shuttle here I can, borrow." Renato found Zenobia in the chart room. "I've been having awful dreams," she said. "Dead kittens and worse. I thought they were only dreams, you know. Why would anyone want the lost gods back? In those days, the favorite of a god could become immortal." She held herself and shivered. "He wants to become an eater of souls. Well, I'm not afraid of dying. Just dying of boredom," Renato said, but she didn't laugh.
Silence fell as they flew towards the ruins of the city of Ubar, where the rebellion leadership was hiding. If Zenobia couldn't help them fight off her father, no one could. As they touched the ground, he could smell the ravens and hear their hungry caws in the distance.
"They're probably looking for me," she said. "You go on ahead." She had that fiery look in her eyes that he'd always loved. It was a bit odd, though. How easy she'd been to convince. It was what he'd gambled on, but he'd expected more of an argument. She'd always loved to argue. She considered it the fastest way to the truth. Maybe she'd long suspected the truth. Sometimes all it took was taking the bandages from your eyes. That must be it, he told himself. Smashing things was fun. Renato had been to a dungeon once where all the chests had teeth and eyes. It had been a short visit. You know, ore is pretty heavy to carry. You know what's not? A new sword. Renato had learned so much about... Ooh, what was it again? They caught their breath under a ruined arch. It's beautiful, she said. This was the library of Ubar, he said. Your father's ravens thought they had an ancient book. She nodded. Was she crying? This was exactly what I wanted, Renata thought. To turn her to our cause. So, why do I feel something is terribly wrong? Because nothing ever goes this smoothly, is why. Who are you looking at? Oh, right. No one.
Hey, Killer Mike.
Hey, killer.
Not much. What have you been up to?
A lever? That was new. Most people still use doorknobs.
The long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good.
Yeah, thanks for coming by, man. Yeah, sorry,
I'm guessing here.
which one is it?
I don't know. I just used one of those stone I found in the chest.
That's how I do.
I don't know what that does
Only
anyway.
he had some way to break the ice.
Little pole.
Or convince that he was a friend.
Oh man, I'm gonna put notifications on your screen, Killer Mike. I ain't know you was, cause when I asked you was you screaming, you was like you're not sure. So I ain't really was looking, but I'm gonna put the notifications on, man.
The council toads swarmed around Zenobia, shocked she was there, shocked she had changed sides. Then the walls exploded. He heard toads croaking, "Oh, the ravens!" Blackbirds were pouring through holes everywhere. "It's a trap!" cried the council speaker. In the confusion, he saw flashes of magic. Then Zenobia being hustled off by Imperial troops. So, she had betrayed him after all.
Renato ran for his ship.
The Farfarer flew into the clouds, barely losing the Imperial ravens pursuing him. The rebellion was lost, and he had lost it. There was nothing to do but find Zenobia and make her pay for her treachery. His heart ached. He still loved her. But he had trusted her, and he had been a fool. She would be back at the fleet, gloating with her
No,
mad,
yeah, we ain't
bloodthirsty
missing
father.
it on purpose,
For all
man. I
Renato
just didn't
knew,
know.
she was helping him bring back the old lost gods back from their exile.
Cause we gotta go to your Discord, man. We gonna go to your Discord. Cause I got Discord on my phone too. I got
Renato landed in the middle of the Imperial fleet. The rebels were losing badly. Without leadership, it was a slaughter. Renato felt strangely free, trying not to think about how he had lost the war. Trying not to think about how he had loved Zenobia. Blinded himself
See, I
to her
got the
treachery.
fire one, the water one.
That's what it meant
and
to
the
be a hero.
ninja one.
To keep on
You
fighting
get
after the
more
most
than one of them.
bitter of betrayals. To never know if you could trust anyone. Cats. What a waste of fur.
Oh, okay.
Renato felt like he was ready to learn new things. Thank goodness he didn't have to go to school for that.
Alright, man, I'm on the plate, man. What you cooking? Want some? I want a steak, medium. With potatoes on the side, loaded.
You know my Nightbot works.
Oh, okay, I will. Nuggets and mac and cheese. Oh, okay.
There had to be something useful in these things, didn't there?
Yeah, I'll let you know if your Nightbot works. Do you have your Nightbot for one person or two people? Like, what I mean is, if it's only one person on my screen, my Nightbot won't ever come on. But when two come on, every 15 minutes, as long as two people come on, my Nightbot comes on. So, like, how you got your Nightbot set? So, like, if you just testing it to test it, make sure you have it on one, just in case, you know, at that time, you only have one person coming.
Okay.
Alright. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, 'cause we got ours set, I think. As long as it's two or more people, I think, like, our Patreon is set for, like, every 10 minutes, and then our other one is set every 15 minutes. I think that's how it is. Dang, we're going fast.
Wasn't those two?
I mean, through the like,
Not personal, but
we be like little secret players, man. I think you gotta go, cause it's like, I think you can use your hero sword on some of the doors.
No,
Like the first and then, but you got time to just go, something gonna happen, and then you're like, this is not how the story supposed to end. Go back. Alright, man. Much love to you too, man.
No
Appreciate you
skateboarding,
coming
sign said.
all the time, man. Really appreciate you, man.
wondered if he could learn to cook this way. What had happened to Lupino? Had the Mad Rabbit fled to safety? Or was he forlornly carrying on with the few rebels Ronaldo could see here or there? It didn't matter anymore. All there was slash and spin, parry and lunge, over and over as he fought his way across the fleet. All there was finding the girl he'd once slugged, who had used his love against him and putting as big a hole in her heart as she'd left in his. Renato felt a little bad stealing crafting materials from chests. He preferred to rob them from people at sword point.
Talk.
I'm always that every time I play a game. You know, I'm always focused on something.
Advancing a Lupino.
Once I'm focused on something, you can't break out my concentration.
Save me!
Oh,
or I'm
good
done
Lord.
for! Screamed Lupino. Zenobia turned, showing her teeth in a smile. You're alive! Renato ran towards the witch. Lupino's the one who betrayed you! She shouted. He warned my father! Renato sank his sword into the witch before she could fool him again. She stared at him, heart broken. No! Lupino's the traitor! Then, he felt a knife in his back. I'm afraid she's right, said the Mad Rabbit. Ain't I a stinker? Then, the sun went out. Swore he just died. Instead, he was on the Farfarer, sailing away from Ubar. And it was still burning. He'd fled burning Ubar years ago, hadn't he? And now he was back there. Had all those years fighting the Empire been nothing but a vision into the future? A useful vision if it was true? He'd learned something. Lapino was a traitor. Renato had suspected there was something wrong with the Mad Rabbit. But now he knew there was malice behind his goofiness. He'd made bad choices. But now, when the real battle came, he wouldn't make those choices. He wouldn't make the same mistake twice. The book's pages began to flip backwards, towards the beginning. And he realized that his adventure was just beginning. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game-changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Or so a scholar in the mountains had told him. Surely the weapon that banished the lost gods could defeat the Emperor. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Emperor had brought the Sky Ripper pieces up out of ancient burial by his obscene rituals. Could this be where the Iblis stone was hidden? Someone better get it before he does, thought Renato. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens? Every child knew about the Sky Ripper. The Transcendent Emperor had buried its pieces. What could have brought them to light? This Emperor, Isengrim III, had once been kind, but he'd gone mad. And now he was conducting secret, obscene rituals to bring back the lost gods. Had he, somehow, summoned the long-lost components of the legendary weapon out of the deep places of the earth?
Welcome to the
It
stream.
was more than Renato could fathom. But if he could find a legendary weapon, he would use it. As he set foot on the island, Renato couldn't help feeling a bit curious. Was Lapino still waiting to be rescued? No. He was probably drinking champagne with the ravens.
Hey, Wyatt, thanks for coming by.
Ravens drink champagne? Did rabbits? Renato felt oddly thirsty, come to think of it. Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper?
What are you doing?
Renato never made plans that required
Wait,
constant
you're
vigilance.
what?
He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut
You
and
told
hoped it
me
all
to
worked.
stream.
The Sky Ripper was a
Give me a
long
water
shot.
bottle while you're there.
He'd have to
I'm
devote
thirsty.
himself to it. No side
Can't drink
journeys,
any
no
sodas right
rescuing
now.
old
No, no.
friends. That was against his
Hey,
nature.
sweetie. Mama
Could he
didn't
stick with
thank
it?
you.
crafting bench. Renato wondered what he could make with it.
Anyone ever tell you you have a lovely eye? No? The people who had built this castle, did they even know what monstrous weapon lay hidden within their walls? The Sky Ripper could destroy anything it touched, or so the legend said. As the Transcendent Emperor had fought the Lost Gods, thousands had died. But Renato had been through wars. The only merciful war was a short one. Shouldn't get impatient. He needed to take the time to figure out what all his experience had brought him.
Look, it's not personal, but your mother wears army boots. On her ears.
Sometimes, Renato really hated inanimate objects. Hey, why don't you guys fight in groups? Oh, I know. Because there's no I in team.
anti-gravity for me.
Firewalls only let you through if they think you're hot enough.
Ready to become faster, stronger, bolder. If only he could figure out which.
Where's your ball at? I use that fire sword. Come here.
That had been his mistake before, trusting his old friend Lapino, who'd been through so many battles with him and shed so many heartaches, who he'd rescued so many times.
What's the matter?
What was up with that guy anyway? There it was. Skyripper's armature. The stuff that dreams are made of. Engineers' dreams, anyway. The device was intricate. No one alive had the skill to make a thing like it. How was it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist. But first, he'd get the second piece. Skyripper had a heart. A core that had come to rest on the next island. Well, there was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him. It was a no-brainer. He'd sacrificed his old friend Lapino to get the armature. And the armature was useless by itself, only a series of coils and wheels. War demanded sacrifices, and he would make more before the end. He would have to choose the greatest good, no matter how much it cost him. Zenobia. Well, he would see her sooner or later, across a battlefield or a sword's point before all this was over. He was sure of that. The power was in the core. Obviously, he had to get the core. He looked up at the old trees around him. They were so big and so old. They'd been there before he was born, and they'd be there after he passed into legend. Was he confronting his own unimportance? What had got into him? He was no philosopher. Anyway, who cares? He was plenty important. He was a hero, and soon he'd prove it. That was always a rush.
Why would anyone put his slinky collection in a strongbox, thought Reynardo. Are they magic slinkies?
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. Where did that go to? There were fewer and fewer trees. There were only these huge crystalline growths. Had those been here before? He no longer heard birds except for the feverish cawing of the ravens when they attacked. He couldn't smell the small animals of the forest, the mice and rabbits. Where had they gone? And he was getting hungry too. This was an unhealthy place to be. For once, he didn't have anything clever to say. So he died. The 20-sided core made him feel physically sick. Once he had sneaked into a temple of the dark arts, and he hadn't liked what he smelt and saw there. This felt like that. As quick as he could, he wrangled the icosahedron into the armature. The wheels began to spin, then glow,
The sick feeling quickly spun away. Now he only felt sad. He had lost good friends for this war apparatus.
Maybe Lapino wasn't such a good friend. Yeah, that made him feel better.
He carried his prize back to the Farfarer. Now, he had to make his next move. There was a key Imperial outpost on the Nexus. If this really was some sort of super weapon, he could use it to wreak havoc on the enemy. And if it wasn't, well, better to know that before the final battle. But maybe he should show it to some scientists first. There was an observatory on the Nexus. Maybe he should go there before he fired it. Well, of course. If you've just assembled a weapon out of legend that can exile gods from the world, you'd want to have a scientist or two look at it. And even if they disagreed and he had time, he could ask Calaveras himself. Yes, the observatory would be his objective. Why had the parts of the Sky Ripper only surfaced now, thousands of years after the Transcendent Emperor had dismantled it? The mad Emperor Isengrim had performed terrible, bloodthirsty rituals to invoke the lost gods. Was that why these ancient artifacts were rising out of the ground? How perfect, then, that the Sky Ripper would reappear to be his destruction. Once, he'd found a Superman issue #1 in mint condition in a jar he'd broken. He planned to keep breaking things until he had the whole series. His hook didn't break. A legendary weapon was exactly what the rebellion needed. They were outnumbered. The once kind Emperor had become a tyrant. But his ravens stayed loyal, for he fed them his victims, and the other animals were too frightened to rebel. Renato shuddered at what the Emperor was trying to do. To bring back the lost gods, the Black Harvest, the Black Sun? No. He would stop that Toad, no matter what the risk.
The Nexus Observatory had the Empire's most renowned scientists, working by themselves without interference. At least, so far.
Hey! Hey, a workbench!
He could try out his new bling.
Energy spheres. Easy to dodge, but boy do they sting if you didn't pay attention. Boy, some people are just liable to explode if you upset them.
That could have gone better, thought Renato as he died.
That had gone rather well, actually. Renato was thrilled. The scientists seemed to think he'd put the Sky Ripper together right. But one Toad was worried.
Yeah, Sky Ripper could tear a hole in existence itself. There are invisible strings that tie the universe together. If Sky Ripper cut one, the hole would widen and widen till our whole existence fell into it.
Another Toad sighed.
Oh, Irving still believes in string theory.
At least go see Calaveras.
Yeah, said the worried Toad.
He knows more than anyone else has forgotten about the Transcendent Emperor.
If
anyone could tell him how to use this weapon safely, it would be Calaveras. It was he who had told Reynardo how to find it in the first place. But maybe he had to give up on using it as a weapon. Maybe he had to go to the secret rebel base and ask the generals there what he could do with a weapon that he dared not use. Well, he should have known he'd have to consult Calaveras again. The scientists at the observatory were smart enough. But what did they know of the Transcendent Emperor? He hoped it wouldn't delay him too long. The rebels had scheduled the final battle soon. Every day they delayed risked the exposure of the secret base. And some soldiers were already drifting back to their homes and families. Calaveras would fix the Sky Ripper for him. And then he would win the final battle. Maybe it was the cold, but after a few steps, Reynardo's optimism started to slump. What if Calaveras couldn't help? Did Reynardo dare use the Sky Ripper? Oh, he hated that he had chosen this path. It was so much simpler to rescue friends and attack enemies. Even if some of those friends were more trouble than his enemies, some of those enemies had been friends before and might be lovers after. No, okay, it wasn't all that much simpler, no. Physics made his brain hurt. That, at least, he was sure of. Don't look down, he thought. Practically sure he'd find something useful in one of these things. He needed some way to break the ice with this wall, so to speak. This was definitely better than pulling yourself up in a bucket. He tried to focus on the now. The ravens who seemed everywhere all the time. Where did they hatch from? Were there giant raven hatcheries somewhere, or did they have families? Ooh, he didn't want to think about raven mummies raising their darling raven chicks. Yeah, Calaveras would help. He would make Reynardo feel better about using the Sky Ripper. And then Reynardo wouldn't have to worry about ravens were getting numb. Calaveras really didn't want company, did he?
Open, says me. Renato had been focusing all his energies on the Sky River. If Calaveras could not fix it, he'd be out of options. He would have to assault the Imperial fleet empty-handed. Calaveras had never let him down.
Yeah, of course I can make it work better.
But when Renato explained about the strings, Calaveras grew thoughtful.
Oh, strings, you say? Well, the Arcana do speak of the ties that bind the world.
He drew many intricate symbols in the dirt.
Yeah, so, according to my calculations, each time you fire...
6. What are the odds of that?
What? No! It's more like 2.716s in a row.
Anyway, with those odds, it won't happen if I use it just once.
What? No. That's so not right. Each time you use it... Okay, look. Just don't use it ever. At all, okay?
All right, I guess. As he sailed away from the mountains, Renato could see clouds darkening. Rain? No. Ships. Imperial ships, swarming thick as bees. This was it. The big battle. They could not afford to lose this one. What if it did not go well? What if he had to use the Sky River? Could he gamble the universe? On the other hand, what were the odds of rolling 21 sixes in a row? The battle was not going spectacularly well. What had the rebels been thinking? They'd been thinking he would bring the Sky Ripper, or the Iblis Stone, or that he'd sideline Zenobia somehow, or turn her. Couldn't he use the Sky Ripper just once? After all, if chances were 1 in 128, that meant he'd for sure be okay the first time. They'd get worse each time he used it, but the first time would be okay, right? He wasn't sure that it was right. So he didn't fire the Sky Ripper. He just brought it along, in case.
Where do the ravens go? The live ones, I mean.
Ready to blossom within him, or something. Someone had told him the odds didn't change just because he had a streak of good luck. His gut told him that was wrong, though. and he always listened to his gut. On the other hand, 128 chances to win, but one of them would destroy the universe. That seemed a bit serious. Maybe he could defeat the Emperor without firing the Sky Ripper. Maybe he could bluff, but with a real weapon. Like in cards, when you had 3 knaves, but you pretended you had a fizzbin. Well, that could work. Good thing Renato didn't have vertigo.
Hey, who's your crib out there?
He was sort of yanking his own chain, wasn't he? He set up the Sky Ripper and let it warm up. He would bluff if he had to. Zenobia came out, flanked by a very daunting platoon of ravens. You won't actually use that, she said in that annoying, I know everything because I'm a cat and you know nothing because you're just a fox voice she had. Or I know the odds. Good, because there's a real chance you could destroy the universe. No, not the first time I use it. The odds are too low. What? No? Yeah, sure. The first time, the odds are practically nothing. They only go up if I use it a bunch more times. No, but that's not how odds work. Didn't you pay attention in class? Now surrender, or I'll use it. Just once, he said. Don't. He felt sure the odds were with him. He had to go with his gut. That's what heroes do. Fire, he said. Please? The Sky Ripper fired. With a tremendous whoosh, the Emperor's flagship went up in flames. It was awesome. Then he noticed there was a hole in the air. A blackness, like a tear in a parchment. Wind was blowing into it, widening it. It grew larger, and even larger. Crates fell upwards into it, and the world itself seemed bent, like the reflection on a curved mirror, as it poured into the ravenous hole. Ah, 1 in 128. What are the odds? Thought Renato, and then everything fell into the hole and was gone. Renato stared at the book. He was still alive. Again. And still only flying away from burning Ubar. Had he lived that adventure? Or only dreamt it? Had he really died? It felt so real, not like a dream at all. And he'd lost again. Oh, he hated that. But he had made different choices. And he'd lost in a different way. It was the book, wasn't it? Oracles showed you your destiny. But this was showing him different ways he could die miserably. Thanks a bunch, book, he thought. But these were destinies that he did not have to fulfill. But he'd learned another true thing. The core was powerful, but dangerous if used improperly. But that meant there must be a destiny where he survived and won, right? Otherwise, what was the point? And with that, the book's pages fluttered back once more to the beginning, and the clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Emperor had brought the Sky Ripper pieces up out of ancient burial by his obscene rituals. Could this be where the Iblis Stone was hidden? Someone better get it before he does, thought Bernardo. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Bernardo had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Bernardo really leave an old friend to the Ravens? But the island was windswept desert. No one went there except ostriches and ostrich hunters. The Iblis Stone. It sounded ominous. It sounded powerful. If the Emperor was searching for it, it must be dangerous. And so, Bernardo went ostrich hunting. Every child could sing verses about the Sky Ripper, but ancient codices held hints of other things. A stone that ate souls, a ruby that drank blood.
Okay, everybody, I'm gonna end it right here.
A jewel only a righteous man could give away.
And I appreciate everybody coming to the stream.
The Iblis
And
Stone, long hidden in a buried
thank
temple.
you everyone for coming to the stream.
Another ancient item that was only resurfacing
we will do this
now.
tomorrow, so
Drawn up
look
from
out
the
for it
deeps
tomorrow.
by the Emperor's horrific
I'll
rituals.
see you all next time. This is Ashley from Vic&Ashley Gaming. Peace out.